In the dim-lit undercroft of a Gangnam cafe, where the espresso machine hissed like a confessor's whisper and rain-smeared windows blurred the neon veins of the city into abstract confessionals, a junior sound engineer named Minji hunched over her phone at 3:14 a.m. on December 3, 2025. Her fingers, still scented with the metallic tang of console sliders, hesitated above the send button, the draft message a fragile grenade. Heard Taehyung in the booth tonight, pushing so hard it broke him a little. Because the wait's not just the comeback. It's everything we don't see. The recipient was an anonymous army handle in a private telegram cell, one of those digital cloisters where leaks bloomed like contraband orchids. But as the verification code pinged, Minji's resolve cracked, the message hurtling into the void before regret could tether it. By dawn, it had metastasized across X's underbelly, a thread uncoiling from speculation to scripture, fans parsing the ellipsis like cartographers charting unseen continents, the everything a specter that tugged at the frayed edges of adoration. What lingered in the cafe steam untranscribed was the raw timbre of Taehyung's voice from hours earlier, cracking not on a high note, but on the hush after, a fracture audible only to those who wired the walls. Minji's orbit had grazed the periphery of stardom for 18 months, her role at a freelance audio firm a revolving door to HYB's hallowed halls, patching mics for proofs of concept, calibrating booths where solos simmered into symphonies, her toolkit a talisman against the glamour's gravitational pull. She wasn't a gatekeeper, just a gear 24, fresh from a Busan conservatory where she'd majored in acoustics, dreaming of scoring indies until the gig economy herded her toward K-pop's Coliseum. The BTS sessions were anomalies, slotted into her calendar like sacred slots. The septets return a seismic event, their ground floor expanse in Yongsan a forged-sheet glimpse through half-open doors, mirrors winking secrets at her clipboard. Taehyung's presence registered first as aura, entering sessions with a duffel slung low, his silhouette elongated by the corridor's oblique light, a quiet nod her way that carried the weight of worlds unvoiced. She'd attributed it to the ether of enlistment's aftermath, the way his frame had sharpened into something tensile, like a bowstring drawn taut after long disuse, but the leaks had started small. A pilfered portrait of their floor sprawl, now this whisper from the wire, her own complicity a knot she couldn't untie. The booth that night had been a velvet-lined vault, its walls absorbing echoes like a confessional's grill, the console outside a constellation of dials glowing amber under Minji's vigilant gaze. Taehyung arrived solo at 10 p.m., the complex's night shift a skeleton of security and stray producers, his footsteps muffled by the carpet's hush as he shouldered through the partition door. No entourage, just a thermos of barley tea and a lyric folio dog-eared at the corners, its margins feathered with ink blooms from pens pressed too hard. Evening tweaks on the bridge, he'd said, voice a low register that vibrated the air like a cello's open string, settling into the stool with the economy of someone who'd bartered ease for endurance. Minji cued the track, a nascent beast of trap's serrated underbelly laced with orchestral swells, Si-Hyuk's choreography blueprint humming in her mind from earlier briefs, and watched through the glass as he leaned into the mic, eyes half-lidded against the red blink of the record light, his breath a prelude that fogged the pain briefly. The first pass unfolded with deceptive seamlessness, his baritone weaving through the verse like smoke threading latticework, threads pulled tight in the quiet. Storm / we unravel to reform. It was the kind of delivery that masked machinery, the subtle scoop on the diphthong, the deliberate decay on the consonant tails, honed from Daegu cellars to Dodger Stadium decibels. But on the bridge's ascent, the pressure plate shifted. The line crested into falsetto filigree, his timbre fracturing not with a yelp but a yawp, a raw edge surfacing like fault line in flawless marble. He halted the take mid-phrase, hand raking through raven strands damp at the temples, the booth's isolation amplifying the exhale that followed. A gust ragged with restraint, shoulders rising and falling as if ventilating a vault long sealed. Minji froze at the sliders, her impulse to interject quelled by the glass's muteness. Instead, she patched through the talkback, voice pitched neutral. Solid foundation, want to layer ad-libs on the echo? His nod came delayed, dimples flashing in a grin that didn't quite eclipse the hollows beneath his eyes. But when he resumed, the intensity redoubled, verses vaulting over verses until the second crack landed. A held note buckling into breath, the mic catching the coda. Damn, that's the ghost I can't shake. She'd logged it as fatigue, the septet schedule a hydra of hybrid demands. Dawn choreography cascades with Si-Hyuk's kinetic codex, midday motif mappings with Yoongi's terse transmutations, evenings etching ensembles where Namjoon's narrative nets ensnared Jungkook's kinetic kernels and Jimin's elegant extensions. Taehyung's slot was the interstice, the solo scaffold bridging his layover legacy to the group's galactic graft. But the leaks had layered scrutiny. That floor sprawl snapshot spawning fan forensics on every limb's languor, Wever's dispatches dissecting doodles for discography divinations. Minji's own dispatch stemmed from a spill in the annex lounge later, overhearing his murmur to a water cooler apparition. Himself, perhaps, or the mirror's mercenary reflection. Because it's not just the stage. It's the space we left empty. The words, innocuous in isolation, accreted in her mind like sediment, the space a cipher for the hiatus's hollows, the barracks' banal brigades where rifles outranked refrains, the phantom crowds clamoring through contraband clips, the septet's splintered sabbaticals etching estrangement into every encore. By midnight, as he emerged from the booth, folio furled under arm, thermos half-drained, she'd bottled it, the message a misguided missive meant to humanize the icon, not hollow him further. The detonation dawned diffuse, the telegram thread threading into X's tributaries by 6 a.m., Minji's handle anonymized but her phrasing a fingerprint. Tekkanan Basar, Karina Aini. Netizens navigated the nebula, Army's vanguard vaulting from vigilance to vivisection, edits eliding the ellipsis with enlistment montages, theories tethering the Aini to unspoken indictments, industry imperatives post-Pandora's box of scandals, the solipsism of solo stardom clashing with collective covenant, or the intimate indictment of time's theft, the 20s bartered for mythos leaving ledgers of loss. In Manila's monsoon-misted mornings and London's fog-fringed feeds, forums fermented the fragment, one curator conjecturing it as homage to the hiatus's harvest, a pressure plate forged from fallow fields. Another, a psych major in Perth, positing the performer's paradox, adoration as anchor, its weight warping the wings. Minji nursing a latte in that same cafe as servers swapped shifts, watched the waveform warp her whisper into wildfire, regret ripening into revelation. Leaks as lanterns illuminating not just the idol's inferno but the inferno's inheritors, the unseen who stoked the blaze back in Yongsan's veiled vaults. The septet's midday muster masked the maelstrom, the ground floor expanse a bastion buffered by blackout blinds, mirrors missed it from morning exertions. Taehyung threaded in at the periphery, thermos refilled, his ingress unremarkable amid the bustle. Si-Hyuk diagramming diagonals on the whiteboard's weathered weave, Namjoon murmuring metrics to a metronome app, Jungkook's kicks cannonading against a Pilates ball like punctuation deferred. The air carried the faint char of reheated ramen from the annex, a olfactory anchor to normalcy, but Taehyung's timbre betrayed the tremor when he quipped at Jin's Mandu monopoly. Save some ghosts for the encore, young mine are getting crowded. Laughter lapped the laps, but Jimin caught the cadence's quiver, his gaze grazing Taehyung's like a glissando, pulling him aside during the breath calibration. Palms to cores, eyes eclipsed, the circle's cadence a covert confessional. The feeds are feeding on you, Jimin ventured, voice velvet over the vibration. That leak, it's us, not just you. The pressure's the proof we're pulling through. Taehyung's nod was a notch in the wheel, the booth's breach a catalyst crystallizing the crux. The Aini not indictment but inheritance, the weight woven from the warp of their woven world, the hiatus's harvest of hollows, where enlistment's uniformity unmade the multiplicity they'd mastered. Solos a solitary siege against the septet's symphonic summons. He'd felt it in the bridge's buckle, the notes nadir not technical trespass but tidal truth. The space left empty was the self-suspended, the baritone bartered for bayonets, the dimpled deflections deployed to dam the deluge of doubt. Yet in Jimin's anchor the alchemy activated, fraternity as forged, transmuting tension into tensile strength, the leak not laceration but liberation, a public psalm voicing the private psalmody. The session surged thereafter, the opener's orbit orbiting with renewed radius, Taehyung's helixing higher, wrist ripples radiating resolve, the mirrors manifesting not multiplicity's mockery but mastery's mandate, bodies braiding into a braid unbreakable as twilight tinted the expanse in teal gradients. The septet sealed the sweep cue free, propulsion a prayer answered in polyphony, silhouettes soldering seamless against the sodium scrim. Si-Hyuk's benediction bloomed into breakdown, embraces etching the ether Yoongi's rumble rare. That's the marrow, now let it marinate. Taehyung lingered in the afterimage, folio furled, thermos tipped to empty, the leak's legacy a low hum in his veins, pressure as prism, refracting not ruin but radiance, The because a bridge from Booth's isolation to Brotherhood's bastion. Minji, monitoring from the annex's alcove, caught his exit, duffel slung, stride steadied, and deleted her drafts, the cafe's confessional closing with the clink of saucers, her complicity commuted to quiet catalyst, the resonance radiated, a radial rite rippling the republic of reverence, forums forging from the fragment fortresses of empathy, fans framing the ellipsis as elegy for the unseen exertions, the industry's indifferent incline nudged toward nuance, pauses penciled into protocols leaks, as lessons in luminosity, in high-rises humming with half-formed harmonies and low-lit lounges where army-archived aches, the whisper wove wider. Taehyung's tenacity not tightened but tapestry, threads of trial textured by the touch of those tethered, the pressure a pledge to the spaces shared. He threaded homeward through thoroughfares traced in twilight, snow-silent under street lamp scrutiny, glimpsing in a gallery window's glow a graffito glyph, 7 silhouettes sprawled eternal, and exhaled into the ether. Not endpoints echo but ellipses embrace, where one voice's veiled vulnerability vaulted the veiled into vista, etching in the interstice of idle and intimate the indelible ink of us all. Damn. That's the ghost I can't shake. The words lingered in the booth's recycled air. A spectral residue Minji couldn't erase from the waveform, her fingers pausing over the stop button like a surgeon doubting the cut. Taehyung slumped slightly on the stool, mic stand shadowing his folio, ink blooms now like bruises on the page. Marks of months marching with strangers, voice memos his only cadence carried back. She cued a neutral break, but he flicked it off, dimples flashing as decoys against fatigue. One more, bury this specter. The retake transmuted it all. Timbre noosing the note, falsetto from fracture to filigree, bridge buoyant, verses vaulting voids with vibrato shaking the glass. Minji breathed with him, sliders seamless, export saved as eclipse undershirbridge resurrected. Her toolkit quivering, he emerged into the annex hush, thermos half empty, folio furled like fragile truce, pausing at the water cooler. Its gurgle mocking the booth's ghosts. The mirror magnified mercilessly. Hollow cheeks, eyes lined from deferred dawns, enlistment unmaking his multiplicity. Not just the stage, he murmured to the mask. The space left empty. Barracks blank marches where refrains bowed to rifles, septet splintered sabbaticals etching estrangement into absent encores. Soliloquy spilled, sediment from seismic shifts, space cipher for hiatus hollows. Solos sieging symphonies, layovers lighthouse lone in galactic graft. Minji coiling cables in the crevice snared the coda like contraband, ears ensnaring ellipsis, because trailing back to buckle midnight mantled corridors to narrowness, security fading like footnotes, screens standby stars, she bottled the breach, fingers flying in amber afterglow. Telegram cloister of confidence, freelancers firewall fretting, army ache archivers, beckon black market confessional, draft distilling. Tekanan bizarre. Karina Aini. Gaps ghosts, unseen worlds wait. Anonymity armored. Missive misguided to mortalize the icon sans heart hack. Send severed, code guillotine glinting, message metastasizing before regret reeled. Latte cooling as cafe clattered closing. Dawn detonated diffuse, thread X tributaries by 6 a.m., phrasing phantom print. Broke him pushing hard weight everything unseen. Vanguard vaulted vigilance to vivisection. Edits ellipses alighting enlistment elegies. Barracks intercut buckles, Aini indicting unspoken. Scandals Pandora, solo clashing covenant, times 20's thievery lost ledgers. Mists Manila mornings memed marrow, fog London feeds forums fermenting. Curator hiatus homage, pressure fallow-plated. Perth psych paradox, adoration warping wings. Minji latte nurse shift shuffle, waveform whisper wildfire, regret revelation ripening. Lanterns leaks, inferno limbing inheritors ignition, stoker scorch self-spark. Yongsan vaults veiled vortex, muster midday maelstrom masking blinds bastion, mirrors morning misted. Periphery threaded Taehyung. Thermos ritual refilled, bustle unremarkable ingress. Hosiak diagonals diagramming whiteboard weave. Namjoon metronome murmuring. Jungkook Pilates canon kicks. Rami Char normalcy anchored, but Jean Mandu quip quavered. Encore ghosts save young mine crowd. Laps lapped laughter, Jimin glissando grazing gaze. Calibration breath circle covert aside pulling. Aurora's coring palms eclipsed eyes. You feeding feeds, vibration velvet ventured. Us leaks not solo. Through pulling proof pressures. Nod notch wheeled Taehyung's crux crystallized. Inheritance Ini, weight warp woven. Hollows hiatus multiplicity unmaking, symphonic sieging solos. Truth title buckle bridges. Suspended self, bayonet baritone. Deluge damning dimples doubts. Alchemized anchor gemins. Forge fraternity tinsel tension. Samadi voicing liberation leak. Surge session renewed radius orbiting opener. Higher helixing resolve radiating ripples mastery mandating mirrors, braid unbreakable bodies. Expanse teal tinted twilight, polyphony prayer cue-free sweep, sodium soldered silhouettes. Breakdown bloomed benediction hosiaks, ether etching embraces, marinate marrow, rumble Jungies. Afterimaged lingered Taehyung. Tip thermos furled folio, hum low vein legacy. Prism pressure refracting radiance ruin, brotherhood booth bridge because. Exit monitored alcove minji, steadied stride slung duffel, deleted drafts, saucers clinking confessional, catalyst quiet complicity. Republic reverence radial rippled resonance. Empathy fortresses fragment forms, exertions unseen elegy ellipsis, nuance industry nudged, lessons luminosity leaks, protocols pauses. Archived aches army lounges, harmonies half-humming high-rises, wove wider whisper. Tapestry tenacity, touch tethered textured trials, shared spaces pledge pressure. Threaded thoroughfares twilight Taehyung, scrutiny street lamp snow silent, eternal silhouette 7, graffito gallery glimpsed, ether exhaled. Embrace ellipse, not echo endpoint, vista veiled vaulting vulnerability veiled voice, us all indelible intimate idol interstice.